Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. We begin tonight in Paris, where French officials continue to strike back against ISIS following Friday's attack that killed 129 people. Well, this morning, police went after the alleged mastermind of the attack in a 7-hour raid that ended with 2 dead. This is America Debates. What next steps we should take? Let's go live to Paris right now with Marcy Gonzalez.
Yeah, this all started with a tip that terror mastermind was still here in Paris, and it ended with that dramatic raid just a mile from where the attacks began. After the gunfire and explosions, an alarming discovery in this morning's raid in a Paris suburb. Prosecutors finding evidence of another terror plot in the works.
Everything leads us to believe that, considering their armament, the structured organization and the determination, they were ready to act.
Cell phone records and surveillance led them to this apartment building where they thought they'd find the mastermind of Friday's attacks, Abdelhamid Abaoud. Inside, an hour-long shootout, 5,000 rounds fired.
I heard gunfire. It went crazy. Gunshots, explosions, here, there, everywhere. It went on for ages. People were running everywhere.
8 people detained, prosecutors saying while Abaoud is not among them, they still haven't identified the bodies of 2 people killed in the raid, including a woman police say blew herself up with a suicide belt. Police also still searching for 2 of the killers who carried out the Paris massacre and trying to figure out who the terrorists texted just before the attacks. The chilling message found on a cell phone outside of this theater: "Here we go, we are starting." And police, determined to find those dangerous suspects, conducted nearly 120 searches across France overnight, including that violent raid that left several officers injured. We're live in Paris. Marcy Gonzalez, ABC News. Now back to you.
And one more piece of breaking news, although I want you to hear the whole story. CNN reporting that there's a new ISIS video containing a threat against New York City. And they cite a web video that shows still images of what appears to be a bomb, a man with a zipped up coat, and an image of Herald Square. Now, I should caution that some observers are claiming this actually an old video from April. NBC reporting that the White House telling them there is no credible threat against any city in the United States. But again, CNN reporting a new video threat from ISIS against New York City. Of course, any developments will report on that. Meanwhile, as the U.S. tweaks its strategy against ISIS, the focus is on protecting the nation from more attacks. So what to do with the refugees from Syria? And that question has gotten the most attention, as more than half of all state governors, they've said that they want to stop or all out delay any refugee from settling in their states. Now, that's even before news of the 5 arrests in Honduras today. Syrians detained there on the way to the U.S. with fake Syrian passports. It has led to some big name back and forth when it comes to this issue.
President Obama and Hillary Clinton's idea that we should bring tens of thousands of Syrian Muslim refugees to America is nothing less than lunacy.
We have to protect Americans and not lose our soul as America in the process, right? When America, the day America says, close the gates, build the wall, then I say, take down the Statue of Liberty, because you've gone to a different place.
Those who are fleeing persecution should be resettled in the Middle East and majority Muslim countries. Now, on the other hand, Christians who are being targeted for genocide, for persecution, Christians who are being beheaded or crucified, we should be providing safe haven to them. But President Obama refuses to do that.
We are not well served when, in response to a terrorist attack, we descend into fear and panic.
And they even went to say, is that what we want to say? Kick 3-year-olds out here who are looking for refuge. Now, the White House, for their part, threatening to veto a House bill that would add additional background checks to the process of any screening of Syrian refugees into the U.S. Okay, in addition to the question about the refugees, is another issue: online encryption. New apps allow people, you and me, and then for that matter, including terrorist suspects, to communicate in secret. No one, not even the government, can break the codes without a key in effect, and programmers have been unwilling to share those keys with investigators.
Sometimes people watch TV and think, well, the FBI must have some way to break that strong encryption. We do not, which is why this is such an important issue. Our job is to look at a haystack the size of this country for needles that are increasingly invisible to us because of end-to-end encryption.
Now, those are just two of the topics on the minds of lawmakers, including Queens and Bronx Congressman Democrat Joe Crowley. We spoke earlier today. You heard the president's comments. He's received some criticism, saying that we do have a strategy, and it is a strategy that's been successful regarding containment of ISIS, at least as it relates to Syria. People have been critical both in terms of the tone and then also in terms of, let's say, the reality of it, given what we've seen in Paris and then some of the additional concerns, whether it be in Germany and throughout Europe. What's your take here? Is it working, what we're doing right now? It's a campaign season. Republicans have already said we need to do a lot more. Jeb Bush going as far as say we need boots on the ground in Syria. Where do you fall on this?
Well, I believe that the president is taking the action that he believes in the best interest of the United States and the best interest of the world, quite frankly, in defeating and destroying ISIL. And I think in terms of containment, what I think the president is talking about is territorially that ISIL and the areas that had it controlled in the Middle East has been shrunk substantially up to 25% of what it had been. But let's not have any doubt here that what ISIL did last Friday, what it had done in Lebanon last week, what it has done in Turkey, what it has done in other parts of the world as well, demonstrates that the brutality that they are capable of is not isolated to the Middle East, that they're willing to do that elsewhere. And so we join with the people of France and with its president, and quite frankly, with the people of the free world, to say that ISIL is our enemy, and that we will do everything as a federal government to protect the American citizens.
You know the overarching argument, though, Congressman, which is, all right, there's 20-some-odd thousand of these SOBs that are over there, and sure, the bombing campaigns are great, but until you have boots on the ground, you can't really, if not eradicate, really cripple them. We should be able to deal with this. The president even referenced this before, though he commented, what next? What's your thought? A, is there an appetite in Congress to put boots on the ground, even if it's part of a broader coalition? And B, is that the right answer?
I think that Hillary Clinton had the right answer, and that this is not the U.S.'s fight alone. And maybe this is the opportunity for the United States and Russia to work in a closer way, to really solve the problem of the civil war within Syria itself, and then address in a cohesive way, in a collaborative way, towards going after the cancer of ISIL itself.
The issue of the refugees. You already got more governors than not in this country, overwhelmingly Republican, but Democrat too, who said, not in my state, in effect. We don't want them flowing here. And I know it's not up to the states to decide this federal policy as it relates with refugees and immigration. And I know in New York, both Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio both said our doors are open. But are you comfortable? All it would take, you know this, is one guy to come through this that wasn't either vetted properly or even if vetted, turned out to be a terrorist on American soil, and then all hell will break loose here. What should we do? I've heard the word pause from a lot of elected officials as it relates to our policy. The president says no. What do you say?
When people speak about a pause, I think it's important to note that in the protocols that are in place today already, there's a built-in pause. No one goes through this through the protocol without an 18 to 24-month period. It takes 18 to 24 months for any refugee, any asylum seeker, to come to the United States. That is an enormous amount of time and a protocol, 21-step protocol that people have to go through. I think it's important to recognize that the American people are nervous. There's no question about it. And there is a fear out there. But we can't let the fear overcome what is smart in terms of smart policy. And I think that's what the Congress is there for. Maybe the Congress needs to take a little bit of a pause here as well and gather as much information before we start to act in an irrational way.
Congressman, I do appreciate you making time for us today. Thank you so much. Again, Congressman Joe Crowley, representing Queens in our Congress and also part of the leadership.
Thank you.
Okay, so you've heard from the president, from some of his critics, from the FBI, and also from a congressman. Up next, we're going to bring in our legal panel. What steps should we take to better protect our nation, and where should we stop in the trade-off between security and liberty? And then, Shelley Silver and Dean Skelos, both charged with different cases of corruption and both in courts again today in Lower Manhattan. We'll get a live report from Dominic and analysis from the panel. And later, a fascinating lawsuit over bad birth control pills. A packaging error led to more than 100 unintended pregnancies. Should the company pay? And if so, should they pay all the way until the kids finish college?